Hey everyone, my name is Nachum Russell, and this is my friend Becca, or Russ to most of you.
Guys.
Hey Marianne, you popped on here really quick. You must have been waiting for us. That's cool. Um, for those of you who've never tuned into this show, this is like a weekly podcast that I do, generally talking to other dog trainers. This is not a Q&A show, so if you have dog training questions, save them for another time, unless it's apropos to the discussion that we're having. Becca is the trainer and owner of Almost Heaven Canine in West Virginia. Easy to remember, Almost Heaven. And you want to
A
tell
lot
us?
of people don't know what that means.
Really? As soon
Yeah.
as I didn't even know where you were located when I first found out about you and I saw your business name, I knew right away where you were just by the name of it. But
Well, good. I'm
I guess
glad.
you got to know good music if you're going to know where it's from. So you want to tell everyone a little bit about who you are, what you do, and all of that before we get into this?
Sure. So I'm Becca, and like he said, I am the owner of Almost Heaven Canine Training. I've got 3 kids. 2 of them are with me here. Say hi. I don't know. What do you want to know?
All right, so let's get into it. I'll ask you questions.
Okay.
I know that you started training dogs because of your own dog, because of Max, right?
Yes, Max. So Max came into our lives about 3 years ago, and he literally showed up in our lives. We lived out in the middle of nowhere, the country roads of West Virginia, and he wandered onto our back porch. And I remember Nate called me out. He's like, "Hey, there's a dog back here. He's really cute. Come see it." So, we all ran outside and pet him, and we thought that he was so cute. And then he just ran off, and we didn't think anything of it. But over the next month or so, he just kept coming back, and he would hang out, and we would play with him and give him treats. And we lived on kind of a busy road, and so we were worried that he was going to get hit. He didn't have a collar. He wasn't fixed. So we just started getting a little bit worried about him. But long story short, we ended up like a month or 2 later finding his owner down the road, and they were like, "Hey, you guys can have him if you want him." They weren't really taking care of him to the point where, no vet visits, anything like that. So anyway, basically he adopted us. And so we immediately, we didn't know anything about having a dog. We just welcomed him into our home, into our bed, onto our couch. Whatever he wanted was his. And it worked out fine until problems started happening. All your typical dog problems he had. Jumping, pulling on the leash. He's very, very dog reactive. He would, explode at every dog we saw. He barked at men. What else did he do? He would eat food off our counters. He ate Allie's birthday cake at her birthday party.
Allie is still holding a grudge.
Are you holding a grudge?
No, he's a good boy now.
He's a good boy now, she said. And we were just kind of, at a loss. And so we took him to Petco, and, I kind of asked around on social media, does anyone have advice? And just nothing was working for him. And then about 6 months in, I took him on a hike up in Ohio, and it was kind of the last straw. Like he was so awful, and I was so stressed that I just cried all the way home, and I was like, we have to get rid of this dog. Like this is not working. And that same night, I found Julie on Instagram, Julie's Canine Academy. And I saw on her page all these dogs, sitting on place and walking in heel and coming when called. And I was like, no way. Like Max could never do that. That's no way. So I ended up talking to her, and she was booked out like 4 months, so I couldn't get in to see her. So I just told myself that I was just going to do it myself. So I got on her social media. I got on Jeff, found Sean, Tori, all those, the people that kind of support Julie. And I just started studying and applying everything that I could. And Max changed so quickly, so drastically within days. He was completely new dog, as we all see now. And not everything was fixed perfectly, but just the main issues. We just finally had some control, and we had some hope. And I think that's honestly what most owners need, is just some hope. Yeah, and so I kind of looked around, and there was nowhere in my area that was doing that type of training. And so I just started offering to help friends, and it kind of just snowballed from there.
That's awesome. It's such a cool thing that not even like now that you're on the other end of it, you're putting out the content and you're creating and you're doing awesome work. It's really cool to see that what can come of like free content, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know on my end, I'm putting out content and I never really know like what happens with it. Like once people comment, so I know like the regulars who comment on it and stuff, but I never really know like, is this helping anyone? Is it just filling up people's pages with spam? Like, what happens with it? And then your story is a really cool proof of it, because not only did you help your dog, but it blossomed into tons of other dogs and owners getting help from that free content. I think it's a very cool thing to see.
Yeah. Well, and one thing I remember that Jeff Gelman said was that he would love to be out of a job. He would love to be to the point where we reach enough owners that everyone is successful and everyone is doing so well with their dogs that they're not struggling anymore. Because, right. It's a trainer, like this is really a people business. It's not so much, yes, we train dogs, but really my focus is always, are the owners happier? Are they struggling less? Because I was there.
Yeah. And that's such an important thing. I love speaking to trainers who have their own story like yours, because it's a very different vibe than just somebody who loves dog behavior, right? And it's just passionate about animal behavior. And not to talk anything bad about those trainers, because a lot of them are really great trainers too, but there's something very cool, like from the perspective of someone who's there. And like you said, it's a people-based business as much as it's about dogs. And like you were that person, and you can very much empathize with that idea, like you said, wanting hope and searching and thinking that your dog is like different, right? Like when you saw Julie's dogs laying on place, you're like, yeah, those dogs are special, but Max can't do that.
Yeah. Well, and then now I hear that from my clients, like, oh, there's no, like, are you sure you can handle this dog? Like they all think that their dog can't do it because, if you don't have the tools or the knowledge or that path in front of you, it does feel hopeless, because we almost got rid of Max. Those were my two options. I was like, I'm going to get rid of him because the stress was just not worth, like the stressful moments were outweighing the fun we were having with him.
Yeah.
Which is just so sad to me, because now knowing what I know, it just doesn't have to be that way.
And like, what would you say is the biggest thing that you took from your experience with Max that you now that you use to help other owners? Would it?
You mean like from a training perspective, or just
training perspective, or being a trainer? Because I think there's two different parts to what we do. There's training and then there's trainer. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think that's just the biggest thing, is that there's a solution, because every single owner I talk to, I try to keep my business very owner focused. Mm-hmm. I try not to get too much into like, does my content look flashy, or does, you know what I mean? Like I really try to keep it about the owner, because I can just empathize with them so much. So I think for me, I'm just most passionate about the fact that you can take this dog who completely ignores you. I mean, Max was actually hit by a car when we first got him. He did run into that busy road because we were calling him, and he saw something across the street that he found more valuable than our yelling. We were not relevant to him. And so I think just the fact that you can really change that relationship. I'm very passionate about the relationship between human and dog. And to me, that's my favorite part of training, is watching the dog go from completely tuned out, kind of lost, that lack of leadership in their life, to, having someone to follow and having that person have the skills to lead. So I think that's my favorite part about the whole training, is that leadership and that relationship.
Yeah, one thing that I love about your content, I really follow you mostly on Instagram. I don't do much like following on Facebook. But what I love is seeing that you very openly still talk about your struggles with Max and the process with Max, and that like it's an ongoing thing. And I think for dog owners, that's a very important thing to see, that yeah, you're training dogs and you're creating like massive life changes for people on a daily basis, but you're still putting in the work with your dog because it doesn't end. It's not like
Oh,
you have a
yeah.
fixed dog because you put in some work one time. It's this ongoing process. I think that's it's a really cool thing that you do from a couple of angles, because also as a trainer, there's like that, at least I can talk for myself, is like my dogs are supposed to be perfect, right?
Mhm.
And like I'm a dog trainer, so like they got to be perfect, but you're very open about it. Like even I think it was just today, like ask, you put up on your thing, ask me about like my training stuff with Max or something like that, right?
Mhm.
And it's a very good thing for owners to see that perspective of a trainer who's changing lives, working with dogs, but who's still putting in the work with her own dog because it doesn't end.
Yeah. Well, and especially with a dog like Max. I
Yeah.
mean, out of every single dog I've worked with, he's still the hardest dog I've worked with because of just the issues he has. We're always having to stay on top of him with between his separation anxiety and his dog reactivity. We can't slack off with him because he'll go right back to all the disasters we were dealing with before.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely. And what would you say was like the big change that really switched in his head that you take again? So like with every dog, I think there's a, at least the way I see it, there's a switch that goes off in their head, right? When you know, like, all right, like we're making progress. Like this dog has changed to a big extent. What was it for you and Max that really you felt like now you have hope that now things actually changed?
okay, so it's kind of hard to pinpoint one thing because when I trained him, I wasn't a trainer.
Right.
And so his journey is very different than like a client dog now, because now I can accomplish, in a matter of days or weeks, what it probably took me a few months to do with Max. But for him specifically, I feel like last fall, like a year ago right now, we were still really, really struggling with his separation anxiety. That's kind of his biggest kind of the biggest issue that he has is that separation anxiety. And so the thing that finally really just kind of got us over that hurdle was completely, and people aren't going to like my answer, but it was completely eliminating furniture time. Like 100%, no, not even a little nap in the bed. Once we completely eliminated that furniture time and no free roaming, like he is on place or in the crate 90% of his day. And that's really when we stopped. Because the problem is we would come home, we'd put him in the crate, we'd come home. And I've posted a lot about this too. And he would have like turned the crate on its side, trying to get out. The crate pad would be all bunched up and he'd be panting and stressed. And so every time we left the house, we were nervous, like, are we going to come home to this, and once we started doing that, we haven't had an episode like that since last October. So that to me was really when that's what he needed to finally, I don't know why necessarily. I've had a lot of clients be like, well, why? And I'm like, I don't necessarily know. I just know it worked.
Right.
For whatever reason, in his mind, that furniture time and that roaming, he can't handle it.
Yeah. That statement though right there, like I don't know why it works, but I know it works, and that's what matters. To me is like one of the most important things about dog training, because I think so many people are so focused on why and trying to figure out why something works or why the dog does something. And it's
I
like,
agree.
it's great to know. It's always awesome to be able to know.
Yeah.
But if you don't know, it doesn't mean you stop doing it if it's working. At the end
Exactly.
of the day, that's what really matters.
You're right, because I could sit and like go study. I don't have time to do this because I'm a mom. I'm just like this random mom that found something that worked, and I do like that's so yeah. So when people want to get really deep into like the science behind it, I'm not the best trainer to talk to about that, and I admit that because I don't necessarily know, and I am just too busy getting the results I get to go dig into that. Do you know what I mean? And I agree with you. That's not a bad thing. I think it's very interesting. And maybe when I don't have kids at home, I will have time to go, delve deeper into the scientific side of it. But yeah, I just know what works. And that's really what I try to base my business around, and what I really try to get my clients to learn is to just do these simple things. If it's working well, keep going. If something's not working, change something and try again.
Yeah.
That's kind of my whole thing. So.
And that's what's really most important. I have so many people who I'll talk to them about training and things, and I can hear it in their voice, right? They keep asking why, and I don't have an issue. If I know why, I'll discuss why with you for hours. But what that ends up doing is you end up staying stuck in why and never moving on to how, right?
Yeah.
Like go implement it for a little bit, and then you might actually figure out why. You might not, but at the end of the day, you're getting the results you're looking for. And that's, like you said, that's ultimately what it's about, is getting that change that you really want with your dog and seeing that there's hope. You're not going to find hope in figuring out why your dog acts a certain way when you do something. You're going to get
exactly
it work.
Yeah, because I've had a lot of people be like, well, why does Max getting on the furniture cause him to freak out in the crate? Or why does he even have separation anxiety? What happened in his past? A lot of people want to know that too.
Right.
Well, why is he anxious in the crate? And I'm like, well, I don't necessarily know. All I know is that now he's calm in the crate and our life is happy. And you're right, that's what matters.
Yeah, I think that the furniture thing and the no free roam thing is just two things that can create massive change in any dog.
Yeah.
Because it's, as much as people don't like it, there has to be hierarchy, right? And if furniture is like our intimate space, it's where humans hang out, humans sleep, humans live, right? And when we let a dog, when some dogs it can work just fine for, but a lot of dogs, especially dogs who have some sort of like imbalance, which Max clearly does, right?
Yeah. Yes.
And you let them into that space, it's like it totally creates a lot of confusion as to where the dog actually sits in that hierarchy for that dog. And the free roam thing, same idea. It's like you're giving the dog access to everything. I heard a great example of it from Blake Rodriguez from Dream True. A while ago, I heard him explaining this, and he was saying, like, if you walk into an office building, you can right away tell where the CEO's office is, right? Without anyone telling you, because that office has more space than every cubicle. It has a door on it, right? You knock before going in. There's a spatial difference in it, right? And nobody who's just the regular employee walks into that CEO's office without knocking or without having an appointment. It's just unspoken rules. And that creates a level of respect immediately for that CEO that's totally natural. We all get it, right? And that's really what space is for a dog. And when you restrict their freedom of their space, all of a sudden you become the CEO, right?
Yes. But the cool thing is I think first of all, the frustrating thing is that people look at that lack of furniture time though, and they're like, oh, well, that poor dog. Like he has to just lay on a cot all day. He has to lay in his crate all day. That's no life for a dog. He won't be happy if he wants to snuggle with his humans. Doesn't that make him happy? But the problem is they don't step back and look at the big picture, that like every single day I take Max out to the forest on our walk, tell him break, and that dog can run, and he has all the freedom in the world when we're out there. And so that's the thing, is you have to balance out that, the structure and the strictness in the house, and then their world is huge when you get out of the house. Because anytime I see a dog that's, straining at the end of the leash or won't come when called, is ignoring their owner, jumping, you know what I mean? In my mind, that dog probably sleeps on the couch all day. And then people come to me and they're like, oh, because I get a lot of comments on Max because he's very, very well behaved outside of the house. And, I tell them, well, we accomplish this by having very strict rules in the house.
Right.
And so there's that trade-off. And I mean, like you said, some dogs can handle being on the couch, and then you can put them in the crate and they don't lose it, some dogs. But Max is not one of those dogs.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't have, I've got several clients who, when they allow furniture time, I get the messages, hey, we're starting to struggle again. And I hate the answer. I wish it was different.
Right.
I wish it was, here's a pill, or, you know what I mean? I wish it was simpler than add more structure, but that's
What it is.
the
Yeah, with my Marley. So Marley is my Max. He's
Mm-hmm.
the one who got me into all of this. And when we started to really change things up a lot, like the big changes didn't come from introducing tools or anything like that. It really came from learning what structure was, right? Learning how to change our life. And so obviously I had him sleeping in his crate all the time then, and we made like really big progress and big change. And at a certain point, after a while of like everything was going really well, I was like, let's see what happens like if I let him sleep in my room, right? Because I wanted my dog next to me. At that point, I only had one dog, and I was like, I want my dog next to me. He was sleeping in a crate in another room, and I took him in. And not even on my bed. Just I had a dog bed at the foot of my bed, and I just want my dog to be with me, right?
Yeah.
And I put him on his bed. He slept there. After 3 nights of him sleeping in his bed, but in my room, not in his crate, I saw a massive difference in him during the day. He became more disrespectful. It took a couple of times for me to say something till he actually listened. Like all the things we've been working on, in 3 days' time, I saw change. And it's just one of those things that, again, I don't know exactly why him sleeping in a crate changed the way his attitude towards me during the day. But ultimately, I don't really care because, like you said, the bigger picture. If I'm sleeping anyways, then why do I care where my dog is? That's just like some emotional thing, right? And if I can get past that and have the bigger picture, like now I have a dog that can go off leash and do all sorts of fun things with me, then I'd much rather give up having my dog next to my bed and have, now I have another dog and she can come in my room. So that takes care of that for me.
We just need a softer dog.
Yeah, I got lucky. My second dog was much softer, so she can just really.
She can handle it. But I think it's important for owners to realize that you don't get to choose which dog you get. I mean, maybe to some degree you can ask about their history or something, but like your dog is who they are. And you have to respect that. I think that's really important because I don't think that's fair to the dog to leave them in a heightened state of anxiety and stress because it feels good for you to cuddle them all the time. You know what I mean? And we cuddle Max. Like, if you watch my stories, we hang out with him all the time. It's just not naps on the bed and not during a movie on the couch or. So that's why it's called balanced training, is because obviously we're not doing nothing with him. But we've just kind of learned. I always liken it to a scale. You've got all the easy stuff on one side and kind of the structure on another, and you have to find where your dog is balanced, and it doesn't look identical for every dog.
Yeah, that's something that so many owners struggle with, is like, we get a dog, most owners get a dog, and they have this vision of what life with that dog is going to be like. And many times that dog has something very different in mind, right? Just biologically even. It's not even necessarily that it has a history, just who the dog is, like you said. And if we don't accommodate that to an extent and be willing to change things for that dog, then we're being very unfair. Because at the end of the day, the dog, as much as like, Max adopted us, at the end of the day, dogs don't choose us, right? We choose to bring them into our house and to have them as part of our family. And that means that it's our responsibility to also accommodate what's going to be best for them. And that's a hard pill for a lot of owners to swallow, because we have this vision of what life should look like with a dog, and every dog should have this life of whatever it is that people envision. And most of the time it's not like that. Like, I got lucky with my second dog. It wasn't like it was planned. She just happens to have a great personality that like nothing's really going to mess her up. But that's not the average dog. Like, I look at her as like she was like my gift after Marley. After I like struggled and put in all that work, God was like, all right, take it easy with this one. You could have some fun. That was just luck. But
I'm really glad though that Max is difficult, because I feel like I can say those hard things to clients, and I can empathize with them. And, I don't have this super easy-go-lucky puppy. And then, I feel like it's good for my clients to see me struggling still.
No,
So I guess we kind of already talked about that.
it makes it relatable.
Yeah. Yeah. Because
And
at the end of the day, like, I'm just an owner who found something that worked, and now I'm helping other people. I don't even look at myself as like this entrepreneur or a business owner. I'm just an owner.
yeah.
So,
And that's powerful. That's really what owners need. They don't need like it's almost like a camaraderie as opposed
yeah.
to
Yeah.
like this trainer person, and then
Yeah.
like no,
And
we're both dog owners.
I hope my clients feel that from me. I mean, I'm honest, and I tell them I tell it like it is, but at the same time, I'm like, I'm here with you. Like, I'm still, everything I tell my clients to do, I'm doing. There's not one thing that I have in my go home packet or I put on social media or anything that I don't wake up and do every day. I mean, I still do, we practice recall every day. We practice heel, we practice downs, everything that I ask them to do, I'm doing. So I hope I'm on that same level with my clients.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Kind of my goal.
And something else that I think is awesome for a lot of families, which I'm assuming you work probably mostly with families, right?
Yeah, for the most part.
Yeah, I feel like that's what you would attract, because like your family is part of your business almost, right?
Yeah.
Like I've seen, I don't know which daughter it is, Allie, the one who has like awesome leash handling skills.
Yeah, Allie.
Yeah, like that's awesome to see, and for a family to see that is very cool, because it's like that's the ultimate giving hope when somebody sees a client's dog being walked by a young girl. I don't know how old she is, 11, 12.
Yeah, she's 11. Well, and Claire will walk dogs too. She's 9.
Yeah, and like that's amazing. Like your kids have better leash handling skills than most adults that I've seen, even some trainers that I've seen. And it's a very cool thing how you incorporate your family into it.
Thank you. Yeah, I hope when owners, because I mean, I'm to the point now where I don't know a lot of my clients. They pull up to my house and leave their dog with this stranger, and I like to, really kind of show people that your dog is coming into my home and they're going to be part of our family. And then the nice thing is then they feel comfortable bringing them back for boarding, and because boarding to me is my favorite. It's fun.
Yeah, you recently started like
Yeah.
a cool boarding program. I don't know what
Yeah.
to call it. What is that?
It's been really fun. It was kind of this idea I had that I really didn't think anyone would bite, but it's gone really well. I call it premium boarding. Basically, for a small fee, they can tack on. So say they board their dog for 5 days, they can tack on like 1 premium day, 2, 3, whatever they want. And it just includes either kind of depending, like if the owner's really struggling with something, I'll do a training session, or most of my clients are awesome, so their dogs are doing really well. I'll just go take their dog out for like a fun hike or a walk downtown. And it started because I just kept taking client dogs places for their board and train, and then I would take Max places. And I was like, I'd get these dogs back for boarding. I'm like, well, I want to go. Like, it's just fun for me. I enjoy getting out with well-behaved dogs. Like, it just makes me happy. It's not work for me. It's not stressful. It's fun. So I'm like, why don't I offer this to clients? And so their dog isn't just sitting in my house they get a walk anyway, but yeah, it's just a little kind of a fun add-on. And then I make a little video and post it so they get to see what their dog got to go do. So
that's cool. That's an awesome video. Do you do one-on-ones also on top of the board and trains?
So yeah, I just started doing those over the summer. I didn't do them for the first couple years because honestly, I don't feel like I had the skill set myself to be able to take a dog in 1 hour and make some changes, introduce the tools, and teach the owner. That was just a lot of pressure on me. But I feel like over this last year, I'm finally to a point with my own personal skill set and experience. I have enough dogs kind of under my belt now that, yeah, I've started doing private lessons. And what typically happens is I'll do a lesson and just introduce basic pressure and release, teach them to follow on the leash, and then a basic stay command, like either a sit or a down, and then I teach them, to be released when told. And then what owners, a lot of them have been doing is joining, I do a Saturday group class. And so that's just it's like $50 for 10 classes. You just come when you can. It's not like you have to come every week. It's just at the park, and they come and we walk like a mile, and then we practice place or down or recall. So then the owners can take what they learned at the first lesson, and then they come and practice a group class with everybody.
And your group
What's that?
The group classes, they're open to anyone or just to your existing clients?
No, they have to have one lesson with me first. Otherwise, I think it would just, I want to have some just random dogs showing up and being disruptive, and yeah, so they have to at least, they don't have to be e-collar trained. I do have one dog that's been coming. She's just on a prong, but she's just kind of a chill dog anyway. But yeah, all the dogs have to, have some basic leash manners, and if they're super disruptive or reactive, then I would probably have to ask them to leave.
Right. That's cool. That's awesome. I love the idea of group classes. I don't do them. I want to try to incorporate it next season. Obviously, it's kind of over, at least in it's getting cold, but I want to try to incorporate that. It's a very cool idea. And I watch yours. I watch yours on your stories and stuff. And it's a very cool thing to have the get together of owners being able to work together amongst each other and have that. It builds more community rather than just random owners doing their own thing.
And that's what I like, because it's not so much me standing in front of everyone being like, okay, do this, do this. It's very, I kind of just let them loose to like, okay, everyone practice place right now. And then I go around and I'm like, do you need anything? It's a very just relaxed, each owner is very focused on their dog, which is really fun, because half the time, I mean, I have such good, and then board and train graduates can come for free, by the way. So they just come and work with their dog, which, as we say, it's never over. So, but it's really fun for me when I get those little moments where everyone's just kind of in their zone with their dog, and I just kind of step back and watch, and I'm seeing all these dogs looking right into their owners' faces, and it's really cool. I really, really like it. And that's why it's cheap, because it's not for me, it's not for the money. I really enjoy watching owners and their dogs like click like that.
Yeah. What's it like how long have you been like actually in business since this whole Max journey?
We started officially in February of 2018. So coming up on 3 years.
That's awesome. What is it like, look, all these dogs you've worked with and the community you've built, these group classes, like, what is that like? Like, did you ever think it was going to become like this from your little journey with Max?
No way. Not at all. No, I thought I would, I mean, like I said, at the time we lived in a different house, and I just thought I would train, one dog a month, make a little extra money to help our income. And then we ended up moving to a different house to be closer once we kind of realized that we were going to stay in West Virginia, because we're not from here. And we just decided that, Nate's job was established and the kids were going to be in good schools and everything. We actually moved to a different house than the one we're in. And we were only there for a couple months when dogs just kind of started, people just kept booking and booking. And that's when I went and did my first shadow with Julie and Josh. And then that's when we found this house, and we were like, okay, if we're going to do this, we need to get into a house that I can, have a bunch of dogs and, have my kennel room. And then, it's just kind of kept snowballing. I keep waiting for it to stop. I keep like, oh, okay, well, after these dogs, I bet it'll die out. But they keep coming, and I'm so grateful.
Yeah, it's not going to stop. I mean, you put out awesome work, so people see it. They're going to keep sending their dogs. It's just going to get bigger and better.
Thank you. I appreciate that, because, I think all of us trainers just kind of feel like, do we really know what we're doing?
Yeah, of course. But I think that I was speaking to somebody about it the other day. I think that self-doubt, which is basically what it is almost healthy in a field like dog training. Because if
Oh,
you're
yeah.
like, I got this, like I know everything there is to know about dogs, it's like I don't want
Mm-mm.
to learn from you. Like, because I've never had a dog that I didn't learn something from. I've never
Oh, for
worked with a
sure.
dog or interacted with a dog that there wasn't something different about it that I had to tweak how I do things, learn
Yes.
something from it, and get creative with it. And that's like the art of dog training, I guess, really
Mhm.
is being able to understand how it works, right? Like get the foundation, get the basics of like how dogs learn, but then really be able to do what's going to work for every dog and be willing to learn from every dog. And it's that self-doubt I feel like that keeps us going almost, because it's like
Yeah.
if you know it all, then you're going to mess up. There's going to be a
Yeah.
dog very quickly that's going to come and be like, no, you don't know it all, and then there's
Yeah.
not you're not going to have anything to do. It's a healthy self-doubt, I think. At
Yes,
least
I
the way I
agree.
thought about me.
I agree. Well, and it like, for example, last February I had a dog, this poodle, and she just had this attitude that just really I hadn't really encountered that type of attitude yet. And so, I worked through it. You know, like you said, I tweaked a bunch of things, and then like 3 months later, I had another poodle with the same attitude, and I knew exactly what to do. Like right, like so for that second dog, I had that confidence, and I was like, oh, I've seen this before. I've got this. And I think that's why it's so important as dog trainers to just get your hands on dogs. Because I've had several kind of newer trainers ask me, oh, do you have any advice for just starting out? And that's always my advice is just like, don't try to charge a bunch of money. Don't, worry necessarily about building this big social media platform. Like, I think to get into dog training, you have to just get hands-on experience. You have to get your hands on dogs because they're what they're going to teach you.
Yeah,
Like, books
absolutely.
won't teach you, even talking, obviously those things teach you, but until you've got the leash in your hands and the dog in front of you, that's how you learn. So,
Absolutely. Yeah. The biggest mistake people make is spending too much time trying to learn and not actually working with dogs.
yeah,
And I don't mean that like someone who wants to become a trainer should start training dogs tomorrow,
yeah,
but like do something with dogs. Like go volunteer at a shelter or get a
yeah,
job at a daycare. As much as like I'm not into daycares, and I'm in most of them at least, but go get a job at a daycare. The daycare still exists, so you might as well take advantage of it and get the experience of being around. Like the best thing I ever did in terms of learning about dogs was work in a daycare, and it was a daycare boarding facility, and I learned so much from that, just being
I
around
bet.
different
Just
dogs.
the interaction too
Yeah.
between the dogs. That's one thing that it took me um, for the first year. I just didn't have the volume coming in, so I didn't have a lot of like dogs interacting with other dogs, and so it
Mhm.
took me a good year to really learn how to watch how they play, watch how they interact, and it's been really fun to kind of watch my own education grow over the last 3 years, and
Yeah.
hopefully more. I want to keep learning. It's really fun.
Yeah. Dogs interacting with each other can teach you probably just about everything you need to know if you really think about it.
Oh yeah,
They
yeah.
do things naturally, right? It's not like how we communicate with them as
Mhm.
much as like we try to mimic it. They just do it naturally.
Yeah,
I learned so much from that. And
yeah.
there's no dog training book that's going to teach you what you're going to get from being around dogs, holding a leash, working dogs, whatever it is.
Hmm.
And that's like you said, those are the teachers.
Yeah. Well,
And
and that's one thing I feel like I've really learned in the last 6 months or so is I've been really intrigued by like the pack animal mentality. I've really been kind of talking more about that in my training, like with my owners, with my clients, is establishing. It's just so interesting to me to watch a dog go, like I said, go from no leadership to finding that role in the pack. And it's so cool to me.
yeah, absolutely. How do you see it play out in your training?
Oh, it's
Pack
huge.
idea.
They go from Well, some of them think that they are the pack leader. You've got those dogs that are just entitled, and then you've got the dogs that are just anxious and scared, and they need a leader to lead them through life. I trained this little dog. One thing that I've really noticed lately in the past, like some of my summer dogs I traded, was they came in. I can think of this little dog Dixie, and then the Basset Hound Sammy. They were just so frantic when they came in. Like you could tell they just were stressed and scared. And within 2 days or so of teaching heel, teaching them to honor the thresholds, all that, you could almost literally see the stress just melt off of them. And they just would look up at you like, almost saying just like, thank you for leading me. You know, when you're walking, like they don't push heel, like those really sweet dogs that are just not pushy. You know, some dogs, it's like you teach them heel and they're like, yeah, right, I'm not, not following you. But I love those ones that are just like, oh, I've been waiting for this. You know what I mean? Like you can just see the relief in their face of all I have to do is follow you. This feels so good.
Yeah,
Those
it's
are
like
my favorites.
you take a load off of their shoulders.
Yeah,
Like
for sure.
they're living in confusion and trying to figure out the
Mhm.
world, and then finally someone's like, I got this for you. You don't have to do it by
Yeah,
yourself.
yeah,
Yeah.
those are my favorites.
Yeah, it's very cool. I always say that if you take a picture of a dog on day one of board and train, and then the last day, just a still shot picture, you'll see a difference in their expression and their
Oh,
face
huge.
changes.
Well,
Because
the first day you usually can't even get a picture
yeah,
because they won't look at you, they won't hold a sit. They're looking everywhere but you usually.
right. And
So
that last day picture though, you actually see like I think it's a physiological change. Like
I agree.
their
I
actual
agree.
body changes.
Yeah, I agree. Well, and that kind of made me think of one thing that it's a little bit frustrating is when people watch the first day or two. I get comments sometimes of like, oh, that dog looks stressed, or oh, they're scared. And they think that we are doing something to scare the dog or stress out the dog. And I always tell people, I'm like,
Oops. Did we lose you?
oh, okay. I don't
We
know.
lost.
Did you lose me? I lost you for a minute.
Yeah, we disconnected for a second. Let's see if this works. But you're all frozen.
Are you there?
I'm here, but you're frozen. Let's see. Back on. Okay, cool.
Your
Can you hear
screen
me?
is frozen. I don't know if you can see me.
I can see you.
Hello?
You can't hear me? Can you hear
I
me?
can't hear you. I don't know if I should refresh. Oh, there we go.
Okay, cool. It
Wait.
was something on my end. The internet got messed up. Oh, 1 second, guys. Hopefully Becca will be back. I think my internet's messed up because we had a little bit of a rain situation here. So hopefully we'll be back on. Hey, Eric, Carol, Kiki, Missy. How's everyone doing? Nikki from UK. Cool. All right, guys. Hopefully Becca will be back on in a second. I hope.
Okay.
Oh, awesome. You're
Sorry
back.
about that. I don't know what happened.
I think it was my end because my internet was messed up and I kind of switched the router, like switched it from Wi-Fi to off Wi-Fi because we had a like a bit of rain and maybe it's messing up with it. I don't know, but I think it was my end. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I had no idea what I was saying, but
You were saying, I remember, you were saying that sometimes like in the first few days, dogs look very stressed or
oh
nervous
yeah.
and people comment on it.
Yeah, and I think they just don't realize that the dog came in stressed, that we're not causing them to be stressed, but they are stressed and we are addressing it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also like people don't get that sometimes learning is stressful.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes
Yeah.
learning a new way of life is stressful. It's not,
Right.
I mean, for humans even, it's not easy. If
Oh
anybody
yeah.
like think of a first day on a new job and you're like that new employee there and no one wants to talk to you and you're like gotta
Yeah.
figure everything out, right? Like that's stressful. Like that's scary. It's nerve-wracking. It's it's anxiety inducing, whatever the word would be.
Yeah.
And like, we expect dogs to just be happy-go-lucky when we're asking them to really change their lives around. It's very different.
And I think a lot of dogs, because they come in so, I think arousal in dogs people think they're happy. The tail wagging and jumping and the panting, they view that as happiness and not stress. You know what I mean? And so when they see a dog that's slowing down and starting to actually use their brain and think, it doesn't look, nobody knows, so few owners know what that looks like because that's not the norm. And so I think that we focus so much on, you see a dog and it's great, panting and wagging, you think it's happy. It's like, no, that dog is very stressed. So I think that's kind of an uphill battle that we as trainers are always going to face, is just kind of trying to change the norm. We all hear it. You take a dog to Lowe's and people ask what's wrong with the dog. It's calm and a downstay. We've all had that happen. So.
Yeah. The crazy thing is that dog that gets to go out, that looks sad, gets to go out, but your happy dog is stuck at home while you're at Lowe's, and it could easily be tagging along with you with everything you do.
They're on the couch.
Yeah. It goes right back to what you said earlier. It's like that so many people have a hard time seeing the bigger picture. I think that's the thing that people really struggle with the most about balanced training in general is the bigger picture. Like, okay, you're going to punish a dog because whatever it's doing, right? But let's look at what happens after the punishment, right? Now your dog's been punished for jumping.
Look at the dog's whole life. Like, Max doesn't go on the couch and he doesn't go on the bed and he doesn't roam around the house. But let's look at what he does get to do. I mean, we drove him to Utah 2 years ago. He got to go see like Arches National Park, and he went to like the Continental Divide in Colorado, and he's hiked in Maryland and Georgia. And like, he gets to do everything with us.
Yeah, it's the coolest thing.
To me, that's a very small price to pay of he hangs out on place when we're home doing our human things, and then he gets to be a part of so much more.
Yeah, that's why I tried to show like a lot of the outcome of the training, right? So I show my dogs, or like I took off in September and I went to New Jersey and we did hiking, just me and two of my dogs. And I showed a lot of it because I want people to see that idea. Like, my dogs don't get that because they're good dogs. Like, neither of the male dogs, they're the ones who travel with me. Neither of them like are naturally good dogs. Like, Marley's crazy. And Hendrix, I got him because he was crazy. Like, he was being rehomed from people who couldn't deal with his craziness. And they only get to have the awesome life they have because of the rules and all of the like mean stuff,
Yeah, for sure. I totally know.
Yeah.
I know. And that's where it gets really frustrating, is when people zero in on either the tools or the strictness, and they ignore, like, for example, one time I had Max at Lowe's and they were like, wow, your dog's so good. And then they're like, oh, what's he wearing? You know what I mean? Once they see, they want the results, or they admire the results until they see how you get there, and they can't get past that. It's like, well, anyway, I mean, I get it. I get it.
It's like anything, though. People like the big prize. They don't like putting in the work, right? They don't like seeing what it is. Like, I would love to have like a nice biceps and big muscles, but like, I'm lazy and I don't want to work out and eat healthy. So like, that's what it is. I know the reality of it. And like, that's the part that most dog owners don't get. I've had so many owners say like, oh, my dogs can never do those things that the dogs train here, right? And it's like, none of the dogs could. They learned to.
Oh, Max was horrible. I mean, every issue my clients come to me with, Max had, and then some. Like, he's not, he didn't want to walk in heel. He didn't want to come when called. He never relaxed in the house, and he never stopped barking. He would bark for 30 minutes straight. I mean, he's not naturally this like super chill, in tune, obedient dog. That's not, I didn't get lucky, that's for sure.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, he created all this, right? Like he got you to all of this, which is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. If you would have told me a few years ago, you're going to get this dog who's going to put you through the ringer and then you're going to start a career, I would have laughed.
Yep. It's cool to look back on it, I'm sure, and see like what came up of it and how that all played out. And to me, like what I love about your story so much is how it all comes down to like finding another trainer who put out content that showed you that it's possible, you know?
Yeah.
Like I think that's a very powerful thing, at least from a training perspective, from a trainer perspective. That's what's most powerful to me about your story is like knowing that content actually can make a difference in people's lives. And like as much as there are going to be the people who don't like it, but if that one person out there who has a max finds it and like knows now that they can have a different life with their dog, it makes it very worth it.
Yeah. Well, and Julie, I don't know if she watches these or not, but she was a pretty new trainer when I found her too. She'd only been training for a couple months. So it's been, you know, it's been kind of cool because I feel like, you know, you don't have to find these like ridiculously experienced, like, because the process works. You know what I mean? Like I simply started applying the rules that she told me to apply. No more free roaming. Obviously we weren't, back when we started, I feel like, I can't speak for her, but I feel like for me, the structure side of it and the mindset side of it wasn't really the focus of my training until about a year in. I mostly just kind of focused on, he's not pulling and he's not jumping. But once we started delving more into the daily structure, like I said, last year, we really cracked down on the structure. That's when things changed. And I feel like that's when my program changed a little bit and got better. So yeah, I'm always evolving.
That's the most powerful side of it, right? Is like what you get out of a dog's mindset through the behavior, through the training, through the commands. That's ultimately, I think that's the ultimate. That's what it's really all boils down to. Like, I think there's a lot of dogs who I've worked with who know basic commands, some of them pretty well. And they're not coming to me for that. Like, obviously we'll work on that stuff, but they're coming to me because like their mind is messed up and they're all over the place. And, a trick dog can still bite you. What?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
What did you say?
Yeah, a lot of like you said, a lot of them they know their commands. They just only do them for a treat, or they can't actually use those commands when it matters.
Yeah, and that's all mindset. That's all like what's going on in the head.
Yeah. Well, and that's why we push it so hard, and that's why everyone's always amazed at what we do, and it's like, well, it's really not that hard. We just slow them down and teach them to think. A thinking dog that's the goal, is a dog that thinks.
Yeah.
You have to sum it up into one sentence. It's teach your dog how to think and make good decisions.
So I was going to ask you kind of answered my question, but I'm going to still ask it anyways.
Okay.
If there was one thing that you wish every owner would know, or better yet, if there was one thing that you wish like you knew, then what would that be?
Oh, just one thing?
Well, I'm sure there's tons, but that's why I say one, because it like makes you figure it out, like think. It makes you think and slow it down.
Well, I did a Q&A on my Instagram recently, and someone asked me that. They're like, what's the number one thing you wish owners would do or know? And there's a lot of answers for that, but the one thing that I put there and that I'll say here is I really kind of just wish more owners would simply pay attention to their dogs, because I think that's and what I mean by that is like out in public or what they're doing in the house, because I think so much of problems comes from people not supervising or paying attention to or watching their dogs, because you see it all the time. People are sitting chatting with somebody else and their dog is just jumping or yanking them places, or They're trying to get their dog to sit in a down, and then they start doing something else and the dog breaks. And so at least for my clients that have been through this program, I always tell them, I'm like, pay attention. Like if your dog is out of the crate, you're on duty as their leader, and you need to know what they're doing and if they're breaking that command, because I can teach any dog place, heel, recall, I can do the whole program. And if that dog goes home and isn't given that consistent leadership, it's all going to unravel, no matter how well the dog knows it, because dogs will only be as good as the leader that they're with. So I just see it all the time where an owner will tell their dog down, and then the owner starts getting on their phone or doing something else, the dog breaks down, runs off, or you know what I mean, like just that inconsistency. So I mean, I don't know, just when I'm out with Max, I'm always aware of what he's doing. If I tell my dog heel, I know if he's in heel or not. You know what I mean? If I tell him to down, I know if he broke down. If I tell him place, I have an eye on him on place. And so I think that's how we get kind of that crisp, tight obedience, is to just be on them. Yeah. Pay attention.
And an owner who's like consciously watching their dog is also going to like know their dog better and going to pick up on like what's going on with their dog, like in their dog's life. I feel like a lot of dogs and owners live kind of like roommates who just pass each other by.
Yeah, exactly.
Never like sit down and have a good conversation, they never really get to know each other in a real way because they're just like living life but not together. And it's the same thing. They're not in tune with them. They're not watching them. They're not picking up on like, what is your dog actually telling you? What is your dog doing? Maybe why is your dog doing it? Right? Like, and there's when you watch your dog, that's how you get it. I think that's powerful. And that's, I mean, the worst, like I used to go to dog parks, like every good owner. And what I started to notice though, I was there a lot. I spent one summer, I didn't have a job, and I just spent hours at a dog park with my dog. And what I started to notice though very quickly was how all the owners would gravitate to one area and all the dogs would gravitate to another area, right? Mm-hmm. That was exactly when that would happen, was always when a fight would break out.
Yeah.
Because like no one's watching the dogs, and it's such a simple thing to change.
Exactly.
Like, it would make dog parks beautiful.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, because that's, when I'm thinking, I guess I answered the way I did with my clients in mind, with the messages I get in mind of like, oh, my dog did this, or oh, my dog did that. And my question to them is always like, what were you doing? Where were you? And I really think owners just need to take more responsibility for their dogs, because the dogs aren't going to make these choices on their own. We know what the dog's choices are. We're seeing their choices. They're not making good choices. And that doesn't mean they're bad dogs. They just don't know any better. But, the change has to come from the humans, because that's how we get the results here, is we immediately take control and pay attention and start to guide the dog's decisions. And I don't know, I just think that's important to make sure that that your dog's behavior is in your hands. It's not necessarily in the dog's hands.
Right. It's all on you. The dog's going to do what it wants.
Exactly.
Not going to align with you most of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Owner responsibility, I think, is essentially what dog training really is all about. It's just there's complications to it, but what it really boils down to is like, take responsibility for your dog's behavior and like for the role that you play in it.
Yeah, I guess that's what I was trying. That was kind of my answer. You just said it better. Yeah, I mean, that's basically what my answer was, pay attention. Like, where are you? Like, what's your role in all of this? So, because I mean, once owners do that, the dog's going to know. Your dog's going to know if you're watching them or not. So that's why you hear it all the time. Oh, my dog listens so much better to you than to me, or listens better to my husband than to me, or whatever the case may be. And it's because the dogs know who they can get away with stuff with and who they can't.
Right. Absolutely.
So it's really.
I have this new dog that's behind me. She just came in a few hours ago, and that's why and she's still all yappy. She's like, some reason this month I have all these little dogs. So I went
Oh,
from
really?
having a big bitey dog like that wanted to kill me, and then like severe anxiety dogs and all that craziness to like a tiny Maltese and a
Oh,
tiny and a tiny
tiny
Havanese.
dogs are hard. I've trained a couple tiny dogs. They're tough because they just do what they want. I think even more so than a average or large sized dog. I think those little dogs just because they can't, if they're pulling on the leash, they're not going to do anything to you.
Yeah, they also naturally have more like allowances from their owner, so I feel like
Exactly.
it's
Yeah.
more patterned into them that they'll get away with
Mhm.
it, you know?
Yeah. Like I said, I think it's a lot almost harder to get through mindset wise to a little dog than a big dog sometimes.
Yeah. Well,
So,
this little one is she's cute. She just doesn't know anything yet. She's literally
yeah.
been with me for like, I don't know,
Oh,
5 hours, and I haven't done anything with her. She's just in her crate, really. That's my day one, is just crate time generally.
yeah.
But like, I think that I put up a post about little dogs just today because it's all like on my mind. My house alarm went off.
Oh
Um,
no.
someone will
You
shut
need
it
to
off.
go?
No, is upstairs. Someone will shut it off.
Okay.
Hopefully, if it stays on for like another minute, then I'll need to go. But
Okay.
okay, someone's upstairs and they shut it off. No, I put up a post about little dogs today, and I used to work when I worked at a daycare, and there was a ton of little dogs. And what I saw with owners, and these weren't owners who were doing training or anything, it was just owners, who had dogs and they dropped them off at daycare and go to work. But the big dogs, like the owners naturally were more likely to like scream at their dog, to say no
Yeah.
to their dog, right? As
Yeah.
opposed to the little dog, it's like, oh, you pooped on the floor. Oh, that's okay, right? Because it's like this little thing and it just gets away with it. So the brattiness is literally patterned into it. Like they're trained
Yeah.
to be little brats because it's
Yeah.
okay, because they're so
Yeah.
small.
Well, and I think too that some little dogs they're viewed more as an accessory, not a dog with like instincts and they're
Yeah.
just as much a dog as the most, as any other breed. So
Yeah. They don't know that they're
they
tiny
don't,
and
yeah,
do anything. They think they're real big dogs.
yeah. But once you get through to them, little dogs are so fun to train. I love,
Yeah.
they're so
And
cute.
what I love seeing is little dogs that are like off leash reliable, like
Oh yeah.
Hillary from
Hmm. I
Good
love
Pup.
her.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
her little pack is adorable. Like a
Yeah.
bunch of tiny dogs, and they all are off leash reliable. And like, I think it's the best. I've told so many little dog owners to go look at her page to see like what's possible, because people think like, oh, my dog is little, like they'll never be able to do that. And like, no, go see, like it's doable.
Yeah. They can do it. Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. I think I was thinking about this the other day that the percentage of dogs that are truly off leash reliable is so small. And it makes me sad because I just think every dog deserves to. I love how this training just pulls out their potential. You kind of, strip away the the fluff and the unwanted behaviors, and then you just reveal these like awesome dogs underneath it. And I just think every dog deserves to be able to go everywhere with their owner, walk in a nice heel, run around off leash, come back when called. I just think it just makes me sad that so many dogs will never get to experience that.
Yeah, absolutely. They get stuck living in a house, and they're
Yeah.
like, they just want to be dogs.
Well, and I think we all see it. I mean, I walk my neighborhood every day, and these dogs just sit in their front windows and just bark.
Right.
I mean, I've been walking this neighborhood. We've lived here for almost 2 years, and every day after day, that's their whole life is barking out the window. And that was Max. I mean, we still took him places, but it was, I don't know. I don't think it would have, I think we would have gotten rid of him. But,
And some owners don't even know that, like, that's possible. So many
I
owners don't
know.
know that it's really possible. As much as we can try to show it, and so many good trainers show their work and show what's possible, but there are tons and tons of owners who think it's not possible. Like their dog can never do that, or they don't even think that that's an idea. Like an
Yeah, well,
off.
I didn't. I had no idea.
Yeah.
I just
But
thought I had a bad dog. Like I just was like, oh, I got
yeah,
one of the bad ones.
I didn't know
Oh,
that
man.
the dog training was a thing, to be honest. Like when I got Marley, I didn't know that there was like dog training world. Like, and there were dog trainers out there and stuff like.
Oh yeah, me neither.
Your
Well, and then
dog,
you Google, how to stop pulling, and you get terrible advice.
right?
It doesn't work because, the advice we give is never the cute, easy advice. It's hard. I get a lot of emails from friends, oh, I just got a puppy. Do you have any advice? And I'm like, yeah, but you're not going to like it
Right.
because it
You're
takes
not
work.
going to afterwards.
Like, you actually have to put the leash on, watch your dog, put him in the crate.
Yeah. The advice
Unfortunately, there's no pill.
I want to hear.
What's that? I'm sorry.
The advice that works is not the advice that people want to hear generally.
Yeah. But I will say the ones that listen and don't, try to push back, they are doing amazing things with their dogs. And it's so fun because then they come back for boarding and I get to take them out on their outings and I get to spend time with awesome dogs. I love it.
That's awesome.
That's another thing with premium boarding is it kind of shows people like, look, if you actually follow the plan and follow the program, look what you get.
Yeah.
It's not just me saying it. I like to show all my clients that have done a really good job with it.
Yeah, you're a prime example of if you follow the directions that you're given and just do the work, what can really happen out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it kind of just blows my mind how many people do kind of push back. Like, I just remember with Julie, she said, if she said turn right, I turned right. Like, so many people you say turn right and they're like, well, left is, let's turn left because that's easier and what we've always done.
Yeah, that's hard. It's difficult for so many people to change, just as much as it's difficult for dogs to change. It's an owner's journey too.
Yeah, change is hard.
Yeah,
change is hard. But for me, I almost feel like some people, like for me, we were so done and so desperate that change was actually easy for me because the alternative of not changing and staying where I was more uncomfortable than the change.
yes.
But my goal is to hopefully have people change before they get that uncomfortable. That's what I would hope for people is they don't have to go through what I did. But unfortunately, I think it has to get bad for some people.
Yeah. I mean, some of I love all my clients. So any of you who are listening to this, don't worry. I love you either way. But some of the ones that I had the best experience with or I felt that they got the most out of it was because they were so desperate, because their dog was dangerous. They were going to give it up. Like life was miserable with these dogs. And they were willing to just do whatever it took, like whatever it takes to make things better. And sometimes that desperation is what it really takes to create that big change. It has to really be something you really, really want. So you're willing to really do it.
Yeah, well, and I kind of went through it twice because when I first started with the tools and the training in general, we were desperate. Obviously, I wanted to just get rid of them. But then we went a year and a half of still kind of dealing with this crate anxiety. And so I kind of had to get desperate again to really be like, okay, no furniture time. No, you know what I mean? To crack down kind of a second time. So it's, like I said, I hope people don't follow my footsteps and have to go through that. That's the goal, is we're trying to avoid that stress and that struggle. But I think sometimes you have to be in that place to want to change. So
yeah. Yep. It's a lot harder to see what could come of it if you don't put in the work than to see why you should put in the work once you really need it. That's what it boils down to with everything. Much easier to realize when it's really, really necessary than to be like, I'm going to prevent this from ever happening.
Yeah. And I mean, like you said, fitness is such a good parallel for dog training because it's like, do you want the results or does it have to get bad? Do you have to be on a bunch of medication and have all these health issues before you start to be healthy? So, because it's pretty rare. I mean, I have several really good clients who were like, hey, we got a puppy. I want to train him right at 5-6 months. We're going to just be on that right path. And that's what I wish everyone did. But like you said, there is that value in in the struggles. So we kind of see both. Do you feel like you see a balance of both with your
Yeah,
clients of
I
like,
mean, the dogs I have now are all really young dogs who I've known, like I haven't necessarily known them in person, but I've spoken to their owners from when they got them. Like the Enzo, the little greyhound who's with me, when the owners first got him, we did FaceTime sessions together, coaching them. So they did like some good foundational work at home already. There was issues because it's their first time dog, but like he had some like he knew his marker words really well. He was well like housebroken, like the basic puppy stuff that a lot of dogs don't even know. Like they did because they reached out right away. And
that's awesome.
Pokey, who's the little, what are you? He's a Havanese, I guess. Um, his owner is like actually really, really cool. Like total shout out to him. Hopefully you'll listen to this because he started following my page before he got a dog. He's young. He's 19 years old. Started following my page before he got a dog. Reached out for advice before he got the dog, asking me what books he should read. I told him to get Sean's book.
Yeah.
Read that book before he ever got a dog, so he could be prepared when he brings his dog. He asked questions, like sent me messages, joined my Q&As, asked questions before ever having a dog. Got his dog and did a couple of FaceTime sessions with me and did like really solid foundation stuff. Like his dog knows place. His dog knows loose leash walking on a pound collar. His dog knows basic like recall, obviously not off leash, but basic recall, like household rules, like a lot of really solid stuff that
yeah. Well, it's not rocket. It's not hard stuff.
Yeah.
It's really
and then
just
he sent his dog for the 3 weeks.
now.
Now he's about 7 months old, and he's here for 3 weeks to get like e-collar work and work on some basic behavior stuff that came in. But like he's that prime example of an owner who was like, I don't want those issues. I want to do this right from his first dog. And he put in real work, like really serious work. And he sent me videos of him working his dog to ask if things were right. And it's very cool. It's cool to see that.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, I have a client like that who they did one private lesson with me and they follow my social media and they're just every night they go out, they practice tone recall. They're just like killing it. Like they're just, and then, you know, you get people who will do a full board and train and they still go home and struggle because it really just comes down to, does the owner want those results?
Yep. At whatever stage done with their dog, it's about if you want it or not, whether it's like that brand new puppy or whether it's a 6-year-old dog that has all sorts of issues. It's really boils down to like, how important is it to you?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I always tell, I mean, you know, we all talk about this in the dog training world. Like we can't just give you back a perfectly finished product. Like it just doesn't work that way. I wish.
Yeah.
That'd be nice.
And the thing that I think a lot of owners also have a hard time understanding is as much work as us trainers can do with the dog, at the end of the day, it almost doesn't matter if they don't do work, right? Yeah. Like 3 weeks out of a whole dog's life is really nothing, or 2 weeks. I don't know how long your program in mine is 3 weeks, but whatever it is, 2, 3, 4 weeks, like it's nothing out of a dog's life really. Yeah. In the big scheme of things, especially a dog that's been living with an owner and like has all these bad habits and stuff, like your dog is going to mess up with you. And if you're not willing to put in the same exact work as that trainer, really, you're going to struggle. It's just what it is. Like there is no magic to anything you do.
There's really not. And I tell every owner, I'm like, you essentially are going to become a trainer. Like every owner becomes a dog trainer because every moment is training. You're either allowing something, training something, or you're stopping it.
Right.
So
yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's kind of why I've been really enjoying the private lessons a little bit more, because it really keeps the owner in the driver's seat as far as like, you know, okay, this is how you do thresholds. Okay, now you go work on that with your dog, rather than me doing, you know, 300 thresholds while they're here. They get that immediate relationship with their owner.
Yeah.
So that's been good. But obviously there's huge benefits of a board and train. So I have my foot in both worlds. It's pros and cons to both.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think it's cool that you're doing both of them. Like I don't do one-on-ones anymore. I have no time for it.
It's hard.
It's
hard.
Yeah. I don't know how people juggle both, but it's cool that you're able to, plus having 3 awesome kids. Like, that's really cool. But I just do my board and trains now, but there's massive pros to it. Like you said, you're having the owner do the like dirty work, if you want to call it, like, and that's where the relationship change really happens. That's where I tell my owners, like, work your dog, still work it. Like, yeah, use it as a day-to-day way of living, but also work your dog so that it becomes part of you and part of the dog and part of the relationship.
Yeah. Well, and that's why, like we talked about earlier, that's why I show with Max. Like, I don't just go take Max for a walk every day. We go walk, and then in that walk, we practice downstays, we practice recall. Like, I still treat him exactly like a training dog. Right. And that's why he's, you know, you can't get the results without the work. So I feel like we keep saying that.
Yeah, but that's what it all is
Owners,
about.
Listen to that. That's all we want you to know.
That's the real point of it all. All right, let's wrap it up. It's been a little over an hour. Okay. I love your story. I think it's awesome how you've come from being that struggling owner, and like now you're really doing awesome work on the training end of it. I think it's really beautiful, and it's awesome. And just personally, something I love about what you do is how it's like really family oriented. Like, you don't hide the fact that you're a mom and that you have 3 kids and that kids are kids, and it's all part of it. And I think that's really awesome to see. Like, first off, it's amazing that you do it. Like, I'm tired and I don't have any kids and I just have dogs to train, and like you're a mom and you're doing awesome with everything. And I think it's really awesome to see, and your story is great.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on. Thank you. This was a lot of fun. Let's tell everyone how they can find you, follow you, where are you, all of that stuff.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so I'm on Instagram and Facebook, Almost Heaven Canine Training, and almostheavencanine.com, I believe. Yeah, no training on that. Almostheavencanine.com is the website. And yeah, we'd love to have you.
Are you on YouTube?
No, not at this point. That is one thing I can't quite make happen yet.
Yeah, me neither. This is my YouTube.
Instagram stories is probably where I'm the most active. So.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Everybody go follow Almost Heaven Canine Training.
Thank you.
Instagram and Facebook. Thank you so much for coming on. This was a lot of fun. Thank you everyone for watching, whoever tuned in, whoever's listening. Oh, whoever is listening to this, do me a favor. I'm actually curious about this. So if you're listening to this after the live stream, not the live stream, but if you listen to it after the live stream, shoot me a DM on anywhere, like Instagram, Facebook, email, however you want to find me, and let me know where you're listening to it, because I'm curious what platforms people are listening to this on, because I know that the audio goes to a bunch of different podcast platforms. I have no idea how it works. I press a button and it goes out to like the podcast universe. And so if you're listening to it like on audio, let me know where you're listening to it from, on what platform. That would be awesome if you could do that for me. Thank you guys. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Thank you, Becca.
Thank you guys. It was so good to meet you.
Hope you all have an awesome night. Love you all. And remember to stay kind.